right. Good morning, Mr. Goins. Would you give us your name and DOC number, please, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Paul Goins, number 126717.
All right, Mr. Goins. Let me acknowledge the folks who joined us. We have on Zoom is Terry Gould,
Yes.
long-term friend who wants to speak on your behalf. We'll ask her to do so at the appropriate time. Now, do you have a guest there with you?
Excuse me, ma'am?
Do you have
Yes.
someone there with you in support? Sir, would you tell us your name?
Bruce Frestridge.
I'm sorry, what was the last name? Frestridge. And you want to speak on his behalf as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we'll call on you at the appropriate time to do so. Thank you for being here. Mr. Goins, I'm going to read some identifying information into the record. Then we'll have an interview with you. Mrs. Jackson, seated to my left, will take the lead on the interview. Your case has been assigned to her. We'll also hear from the folks then that want to speak on your behalf. We did have another family friend, Sydney Harris, that indicated they wanted to speak. We were having difficulty getting in touch with her. So if she joins, we'll hear from her as well. So you are Paul Goins, as stated, your VOC number is 126717. You're seeking a commutation of your sentence. You were sentenced in Orleans Parish in August of 1989. You received a life sentence for aggravated rape, a life sentence for aggravated kidnapping, and a 1-year sentence for aggravated crime against nature. Is that information correct?
That's correct, ma'am.
All right, would you answer Mrs. Jackson, please?
Hi, good morning, Ms. Goins.
Good morning, ma'am.
I just have some questions for you this morning. We'll start with some just easy things. How old are you?
I'm 56. I'll be 57 in November, ma'am.
And how much time have you actually served on this charge?
A
In
little
years?
over 34 years.
That's what I have. And you do have a prior conviction from 1986 in Florida for a
Yes.
sexual battery. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's true.
Well, you know, Mr. Goins, I read your application and, you know, I was struck by the, I guess, the honesty as you recounted the offenses with respect to what you did to the victim in the case that you're serving time for, as well as what happened in Florida. And on some level, that's a good thing. But yeah, I'm going to tell you, it's kind of concerning to me, the nature of the offense itself, as well as the fact that you had already been convicted of a sexual offense. So I would like to hear from you. I know that you've taken sex offender treatment, all 4 phases of sex offender treatment.
Yes, ma'am.
But I want to hear from you what you think the motivating factor for these offenses have been for you. What do you think, you know, as you process the sex offender treatment and the other programs you may have been involved in? What did you discover about why you were committing sexual offenses?
Most of my life, I was extremely angry, self-sabotaging person, resentful. I was put up for adoption at 2 years old. I resented the fact that I felt like my family had done that there was something wrong with me. And I had a resentment toward women, to be honest. I felt that back then in the 60s, being moved from one foster home to another over a course of many years, it was always female social workers I felt the abandonment issues. And I think more than anything, I had no control over myself. And I was trying to compensate for that by controlling someone else. And what I found is that it wasn't about sex. I took a precious thing between two people and weaponized it. To make myself feel more powerful.
Did that insight come to you as a consequence of your sex offender treatment? Or was that something you had started to realize on your own prior to that?
I knew that there was something definitely wrong with my outlook. I knew there was something inappropriate and definitely wrong with my behaviors. But I had no idea what. Through the Madison Risk Management Program, through victim awareness, these were tools that increased my ability to understand why people do these things. Victim awareness and the last thing I took recently was victim impact were extremely important too in helping me to understand how what I did affected the life of another person. How taking their rights away to decide what to do with their body was me trying to compensate for something within me. Just because I may have been injured or felt slighted when I was younger, couldn't justify me trying to regain that sense of loss or control through the victimization of another person. I didn't understand that fully then, and certainly not to the degree that I do now.
And I appreciate the fact that you really do seem to have gained some insight into the whys of your action. You know, with people who are alcoholics or drug addicts, we tend to say, once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic, once a drug addict, always a drug addict. And sometimes that can be true of sex offenders as well. And so, what do you think about the notion that once a sex offender, always a sex offender?
I believe that may be true. The same way you believe it can be true for some people in drugs and alcohol. I believe it can be true at times. I don't believe that it's universally true for everyone who's ever committed sex offense.
Well, what about in your case? Because, you know, we kind of see a pattern emerge.
Yes, ma'am.
And your write-up, you lost your job as an inmate counsel because of an unprofessional relationship with a female security officer. So talk
Yes,
to us about that conduct, what happened, and just tell us about that incident,
Okay.
that relationship.
Yes, ma'am. Early on, as you said, 1992, I was into my second, maybe third year of working as an inmate counsel substitute at Camp D in Angola. The young lady in question, the officer there at that time, worked on the evening shift, and so we on the walk, and so she was in and out of the building all the time. Many times we were alone in unsupervised contact. To put it bluntly, the young lady liked me. And I liked her. And we ended up one night kissing. And that was actually the first time that had occurred. However, there was another staff member who saw it, and I was, of course, promptly, she was, escorted off the farm and I was locked up. But it wasn't a, while it was illegal, it was a situation where it was physically consensual is what I'm getting at.
What tools did you learn in sex offender treatment that you think would be of value to prevent you from reoffending?
Can you ask the question again, ma'am, please?
Yeah, what tools have you learned over the course of your sex offender treatment that would help you not reoffend?
Oh, wow. I'll say this about offending in almost any situation, and particularly with violent crime and with my situation. Unless a person, especially a person motivated to victimize or hurt other people, to cover up or compensate for what they perceive as self-injury, if they don't heal themselves, then the chances are very great that they're going to reoffend at some point. Two things I think I took away in particular from the various programming I've had a chance to go through since I've been incarcerated on this is I was able to narrow down and get in touch with what was motivating me to have these attitudes and thoughts that led to me offending to begin with, the cognitive distortion involved in that. And probably one of the most profound things is that I was able to see how I was infecting other people with what really was my hurt. The victim is not responsible for the offense. There's, you've probably read my victim accountability letter, or what it should be in the package I sent to the board.
Oh, yes.
I think it touched me a great deal. It opened up my eyes a great deal to learn how my actions was affecting someone else. I was propagating and trying to instill in them the same suffering and pain that I was feeling inside.
Let me ask you this. You talked about healing yourself. What has helped you heal your hurts? What programs or what experiences have allowed you to heal from your own personal hurts?
Well, definitely the programming we've already spoken about. But knowledge alone couldn't do that. Growing up pretty much atheistic under the influence of my, foster family, I clung to that most of my life. I finally set out to prove on a personal thing you do sometimes whenever you're incarcerated, you read, you study, you'll become interested in things. Religion became interesting to me, but not because I believed it, because I didn't. And so I set out to prove, frankly, that the Christian view of salvation and this whole issue with that was false. Thinking I could do that in some intellectual way. I was stupid, but still I was studying. I was trying to learn something. I ended up meeting God on a personal level. And It was like he showed me myself. I had a particular dream and experience, and before I woke up, I asked God, or Christ, he was on the cross, and I said, what do you want from me? And his chest opened up. And there was a picture of my face there. And then he showed me my own. And he said, I just want to see myself there. So in a cell that night by myself, I was healed. It's an oversimplification of it, but that's where I received a great deal of healing. I can't say everything was perfect since then. My record will bear that out. But this was like in 1997, maybe. But it's been nothing but better since then. And still changing the way I live from day to day.
I have to ask you about the write-up in 2014.
Yes, ma'am.
You want to tell us about that?
Excuse me.
Tell them about the write-up.
Oh. In 2014, I was written up. I was in Fox 3 here at Hunt. I was written up by a young lady in the dorm. She was a cadet at that time. What was going on? I was on the telephone. It was like near count time. And I was talking to my girlfriend. She told me she had bought a new blouse. She was coming to visit that weekend. And that it was made of silky material. This is just inmate talking to a girlfriend. And she said, look, it's really soft. And if nobody's paying attention to visit, you know, you can get a feel on it. And I was like, okay, that's nice, you know, and it was count time, right at count time, 9:30. So I went up, I'm right there by the phone. I'm right by the key area in the dorm. Their open windows are just ledges. And Miss Waters or Walters, I'm not sure about her name, was working with Mr. Desitel, the more experienced sergeant in the dorm. I'm writing the note to myself before I go to the bed that this is what I'm going to call her back after count clears and start a conversation on, because it's where we left off. Or I'll do a JPay on it or whatever, do an email. And Ms. Waters asked me, what are you writing? And when I showed it to her, she was like, and she looked at me, she goes, no. She goes, you know, people try to be nice to y'all and you get out of hand. I said, that's not for you. And she told Mr. Desitel, and then they got on the phone, told me to catch my bed area. I went down to the bed, went to the bathroom, and the captain came by. At that time, he was a captain, and called me out of the dorm, asked me about, you know, me writing the lady a letter. I told him that I didn't write her a letter. That I had a note, but it was not directed at her or to her. So anyway, appropriately, you know, I was locked up, went to court. Warden Berry was over investigations at that time when he was here. He asked about it. I had my girlfriend get in touch with him and tell him what was going on, but there was no way to prove that this was the conversation. I suppose, you know, reasonably, investigations may have felt that she was lying on my behalf to get me out of trouble or whatever the you know, the possibility was. That was a very bad misunderstanding, and it was my own stupid behavior, I guess, for writing the note right there at the key, but it really was not designed for, you know, it wasn't intended for Ms. Waters. I did 6 months in the cell block for that. I was found guilty or a 30F, I think they call it, where it's, you know, personal or professional correspondence with a staff member. And I came out in that June of that year, I think, and went to Unit 1. And that's when I became a dietitian clerk over on Unit 1.
One, can you tell us anything about that write-up?
Yes, ma'am. It's pretty much what he said. He did, you know, the write-up says that he handed the note to the officer. She believed that, the note was intended for her. And the note said, if no one is watching, can I touch you a little? Of course, she answered no. Had him, you know, call her supervisor.
Hi, thank you.
Well,
What's your job at the prison, Mr. Goins?
Presently, ma'am, I work for the education department as the librarian for Unit 1. I run the library and the audio books library for the blind inmates that live over there. They all live on that side. So currently I do that.
And one, what can you tell us in general about Mr. Goins?
He's done well since he's been here. Of course, he's been here since 2012. He's done real well. He's completed a lot of programs. Hasn't had a write-up in several years. He's been doing well. No real issues.
Mr. Johnson, that's all. Great, thank you.
So we'll hear first from Miss Terry Gould.
Hello, my name is Terry Gould. I'm from South Carolina. I've known Paul 20 years now, I think it's been, that we've been talking. I always, we have offered over here in South Carolina a home for Paul, and we also have a friend who would offer him a job. Paul has told me everything that he is, what I'm hearing today. He's always been truthful with me. I met him through a friend of mine who was actually a sexual abuse survivor who had unfortunately can't get on this call for some reason, but he had helped her through that because he had learned what he was talking about today, I guess, because those are the things that he helped her with, to know she wasn't the fault of the sexual abuse. So anyway, I met Paul through her, and he's been nothing but wonderful to us, and we have enjoyed his time. We have offered our home to him. We have found someone that will offer him a job, and we have no qualms about doing any of that. I just am really proud of all the work that he's done in the last several years, and trying to make himself accountable for what he's done. And he's told us what he's done. He's talked to the victim. We just all feel real good about it, and we wanted to let you know that, and that he does have a home to come to if he is released.
Thank you. And we do have a letter in the record from Ms. Harris.
Yes.
That goes through all those details for us. So even
Thank
though
you.
she's not able to get in, we do have her letter.
Okay.
Mr. Prestridge, we'd like to hear from you, sir.
Hey, I do it. I met Paul 25 years ago. Whenever I was there's a God was changing my life, and I got involved in prison ministry down there in Angola, and taught Bible studies for years out there on Tuesday nights, and then did some volunteer chaplain work. But so the guy was changing me and to a better man than I was, and not the man I wanted to be. We kind of walked it together, and I think I read my letter. We corresponded for years, and I had a stack of letters this tall that I lost in the flood of 2016, which was really very precious to me because it was our journey together. And so I've gotten to know him and walked through a lot of stuff with him, and he's walked through a lot of stuff with me. But during that time, he's introduced me to some guys that I helped when they got out of here, and helped get them back on their feet. So I guess the biggest thing that I have to say is Paul's a great guy. I really come very fond of him, good friends. And he knows the ins and outs of my family, my life, and things I've gone through, sports, this and that and other. But he's very wise. He's very thoughtful. He cares about people. And I just I know in my heart that because who the man he is and the situation God put me in his life, and I have a great job lined up for him if he gets out. He's gonna stay with my brother that has a shop in the back there. We've got a place where there's just so many opportunities there with our family, with the group of men that I hang out with that, just trying to be better men. And he plays music, I play a little music, play gospel music. So between the work, the house, my parent, my mom, she's still alive, she has 90th birthday for it. We have a family right there that's ready to embrace him and basically adopt him into our family. And our church is right around the corner. We have a great bunch of group of men that we do volunteer work, different things like that. But I just believe in my heart he's just gonna fit right in and make a great employee, maybe one day a great husband. I don't know what God got planned for him, but I'm blessed to be part of his life, and that I really hope that we get to share some of the experiences outside. I guess that's pretty much it. He's in good hands, and he'll have a ready-made family as soon as he gets out. So, appreciate y'all's time and y'all thought.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your remarks, Mr. Prestridge. Mr. Goins, is there anything you'd like to say to us before we vote?
Number one, just thank you for the hearing. I've applied a few times. I know it takes some time, I'm a lifer, and that's very serious business. I do want to say that the contents of that victim accountability letter, there should be one in the packet. If, and I know we can't, if I could speak, legally and by permission to the victim of my crime, that the contents of that letter is what I would want to say to that person. It pretty much says everything there is to say. I do want y'all to know that if I am given an opportunity, whether it be here or South Carolina, I want the board to have that option too. By me not being from Louisiana when I was arrested, I could go to either location, you know what I mean? I just wanted the board to know that I will be an asset wherever I go. I try to be an asset right here where I'm at now. If I don't practice something now, how can I say I will do it in the future, But I just want to thank you for the hearing, that's all.
Thank you. I think we're ready to vote. Mrs. Jackson?
Mr. Goins, I'll start off by saying this is a hard case. I've been wrestling with it since I reviewed it, and there's some things that concern me today, but then, talking to you, I don't know that I've ever talked to someone who's a sex offender who has insight that you've shown today into the whys. Usually, when you talk to the sex offender person who's gone through the program, they'll talk about the impact of the crime on the victim, or they'll talk about, the safeguards that it teaches you to put in place, but very rarely have I spoken to anyone who's really tried to get to the root of the why. Why? And I think you kind of touched that. You understand that there was a lot of anger that you directed towards women because of your sense of being abandoned by your birth parents, and maybe some difficulties you faced in your foster home situations. And so my notes said at the end, after I reviewed your file, my note says that you would need to have a compelling interview in order for me to be able to vote to recommend in light of everything that I had written down about you. I'm willing, Mr. Goins, to take a chance. I believe that you have I'm disappointed about the incident in 2014, but that's been a long time ago. And I think you have demonstrated growth. I think you have demonstrated insight into why you've done the things that you've done. So my vote would be to recommend commutation to the governor of his sentence to 99 years. But I'm just one vote.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Goins, I think you had an excellent interview today. Been very honest with us. I concur with Judge Jackson. My vote would be likewise, same reasons. Recommend to the governor commutation 99 years.
Mr. Freeman?
As Ms. Jackson said, this is a tough case. The thing that sticks out in my mind is not one time, it's two different times, two different women. And my conscience for community safety, I vote to deny.
Well, Mr. Goins, you know then the outcome. You're going to have 4 votes today because we're only 4 members today. So your application for clemency has been denied. I would have taken a chance on you based on your interview today to commute, but you've received 1 vote to deny. So your application today has been denied. So good luck to you.
Thank you.